Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here. Welcome to a day in my life. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Okay, so today on the docket, I have a Costco trip and a freezer purge slash reorganization because I do have an Azure Standard order arriving tomorrow, and I've got two big boxes in there that I've got to be able to fit into my freezer, as well as two things I ordered that are a freezer thing that I haven't ordered before. I'm not sure what the package size is on that, but I'm gonna need room in my freezers. So basically a few months ago when we got our new fridge, we kind of went through and organized the freezers, and now we're back to pure chaos in both, just pure chaos. So I need to go ahead and go through, like I said, I've got to reorganize and probably going to need to pull some stuff out that I'm either going to be dehydrating or cooking like in a giant batch for some meal prep for the week. And so, yeah, I haven't really looked at either one of the freezers and made plans. I figured I would show you guys just kind of like a raw, uncut look at my freezers, so that I don't know, you can come along a little bit with my thought process, because I don't know if that's a helpful thing. Sometimes it's helpful to me personally, because I sometimes have a hard time figuring out where am I going to start. Sometimes it is helpful for me to see somebody else's thought process, so I thought I would show you guys that. But then if I manage to get a lot of really good progress made on the freezer and I get my Costco trip done, I am potentially going to be making some more paint. This is my newest love. And yesterday Adam was home and there wasn't really like a lot that we had to accomplish. Oh my gosh. Loud, happy kids. What are you gonna do? But anyway, there wasn't a lot that we had to accomplish yesterday. So I was able to spend quite a lot of my time making my first ever watercolor paint by hand. And it was seriously one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. So I'm like, I cannot wait to make more, but I do need to get my work done before I do that. But I'll maybe show some of that if I get to it. But yeah, why don't we go ahead and go take a look at the freezers, and hopefully we'll be able to hear. No guarantees. All right, let's go. Okay, here we are. The freezer in the fridge. And so obviously I've got to get those into their bags. We've got two layers. So the original plan for this was that we would have vegetables on top and fruits in the bottom, like fruit here, veggies here, and then kind of other things here. But then also this is the spot where I can freeze my bananas, obviously. So I need to get in here because I know stuff has kind of gotten mixed. This definitely could be placed in such a way that I can access, or, you know, fit more things up here, access more things. So yeah, I'm going to sort of brainstorm this and work on it. And then I'll let you guys see what happens at the end. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other freezer. All right, here is our very old chest freezer. Please last for much longer. And it's more outside, so hopefully we'll be able to actually hear. But let me open this up, and yeah, this is basically 100% full. So I do, although like look right there, there's a space like right there. There's definitely there's defrosting needs to happen in the freezer, and that's one of those things where it's like I don't even know when that is even a possibility. We'll have to figure that out as well. But I guess this is the big box of blueberries. Sorry, I don't know how loud this is. The big box of blueberries, which I got at Azure Standard. Oh, funny, it's got cauliflower in it. And so I've been working through that and refreezing it in other containers. And so I'm definitely getting this box out of here. And yeah, we got to see what is underneath here. Probably quite a lot more of the veggies. And then probably I should chip off some of this ice and give it to my plants. And yeah, it's a big job. So I will sort of get on that now that I've sort of seen some of the layers. I already have a working plan. I think I will, well here, let me count. I think I'm going to, what I'm thinking now is that top shelf in the other freezer, which was originally supposed to be for veggies, I will go ahead and refill that with neatly placed bags of vegetables. It's actually quite amazing how much I can fit in there if I store them more vertical, so that when I look down that they're almost like a file box of frozen veggies. So I'll probably be able to get all of the cauliflower and broccoli that we just saw into the top layer of that freezer, again, if it's just placed neatly. And I'll sort of just have to kind of go through there and see what else do we have. Is there any other place where I can kind of neatly file? So my hope is to get the freezer in the kitchen very neatly organized with stuff to just access and grab, which is the original goal of the organization system anyway, that the chest freezer was meant more for kind of a long-term storage, but the freezer in the kitchen is supposed to be something that is set up for me to be able to very easily access the stuff that I need to cook and make our meals. So anyway, yeah, I have more plans for the freezers, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Let's go ahead and I guess just get some of that organization done. So I am going to pull these broccoli and that cauliflower rice and just sort of start filing it into the other freezer and then show you guys what that looks like. All right, so I have kind of reorganized a little bit and I know what's in here now. So there is a ton of broccoli now all the way to the back. I managed to fit, I don't know, something like 10 pounds of broccoli in here, plus some veggies I didn't even know that we had because they were in the back, some mushrooms and edamame and whatnot. And then certain ones, so like here's more mushrooms, because some things I use kind of only a little at a time, so I just get it out of there. And I find I actually waste far less mushrooms, or far fewer mushrooms now that I buy them frozen than I ever did when I was getting them fresh. So we have kind of a glut of corn. That was kind of on purpose, because Costco doesn't always have it. These are bags of blueberries, but they are no longer the blueberries from Costco. These are the big blueberries I'm actually getting out of that box in the other freezer. I'm refilling these bags over and over again. Yeah, my freezer's telling me I'm open for a while. So I need to refill these with some of those blueberries, and that will help me out in the other freezer. But also under here are bags of butternut squash. So I'm going to do a really big batch of a cashew cheese sauce out of the butternut squash to get rid of that. And then also part of what I uncovered in that freezer was a couple of bags of scraps for making veggie broth. And so I'm going to go ahead and get all of this into my Instant Pot and make a big batch of the broth. And then also, like I said, I'm going to be making a big butternut squash cashew cheese sauce, which we'll just be using throughout the week on meals and whatnot. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do for now. So both freezers have been opened, you know, multiple times over the last half hour or so. So this, I'm going to get these into the Instant Pot to start a broth, and then I'm going to go to Costco and let the freezers, you know, refreeze and get cold before I start opening them up again and doing more organizing. So yep, that's where we are. All right, so here are the veggie scraps getting ready to be made into stock, and I figured I'd show this because I know, you know, someone's going to ask how I do it. So I just basically tossed everything in here. It was actually all the way up to here at first. This is an 8-quart Instant Pot. And basically I just have it on the saute setting for right now to sort of warm it, but also to help it start reducing, so that I can get it to underneath, you know, the max before it actually starts. And that's working out very well. My Berkey had run out of water, and so I'm waiting anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But just for some tips, so these are onion, carrot, and celery scraps. And then to get a really nice kind of almost creamy but like smooth sauce, the secret really is to add potatoes, or not sauce, sorry, broth. So when you're not using meat, you want that kind of smoothness that comes kind of almost more probably like from the cartilage or the fats or whatever. But this will give it to you because of the starches of the potatoes, and you'll get some of that same smooth, amazing mouthfeel that you get when you do more of a chicken broth. And then I am making this more like a quote unquote chicken broth. So I've added nutritional yeast, salt, black pepper, garlic, parsley, and bay leaves. And then the potatoes are just a little extra on top of what was in the fridge or in the freezer. And so basically as soon as I get water covering these guys, as soon as my Berkey drains enough water, I'm going to cover this and pressure cook it probably just on the soup setting, and then let it sit until it cools completely. And then I'll go ahead and decant it, and that will be our yummy veggie kind of, not chicken broth, but yeah, it's a very simple process. The Instant Pot, like the pressure cooking, makes it so nice because I normally would, before I would have been slow cooking it for at least 24 hours. Like it would have been 12 hours overnight and then sitting in the Instant Pot. But this way I can get it done just like in a single day. And so that's really nice, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with this water level, but I wanted to mention just one more thing for the salt. So this is a completely oil-free broth, so that's fantastic. But I am putting salt in. I know some people are anti-salt as well. It was a very small amount of salt. Salt is not just for the flavor of salt. It also draws out the flavors of other ingredients. And so it's just a teeny tiny amount of salt in this big pot, and I will be adjusting flavoring as I cook and probably also adding some salt. We are definitely not salt free. We're not excessive with our salt, but we're not at all trying to claim to be salt free at this point. But if you want to do this in a salt-free way and still leach, you know, some more flavorings out, you could possibly try adding some vinegar or something like that, and that might help draw out some more of those flavorings to give you a more flavorful stock. That is partly why when you go salt-free, it's so difficult, is because you're not only losing the flavor of the salt, you're losing the combined flavor of all the ingredients that the salt would normally be drawing flavors out of into the dish, if that makes sense. But anyway, it is possible. Vinegar is a great trick, so I thought I would mention that. And yeah, I'm seriously gonna stop filming this pot and talking. All right, well, the absolute last thing on this earth that I want to do right now is go to Costco. So I'm going to Costco. Hashtag mom life, right? Oh. Okay, I just got back from Costco. I hate shopping. But yeah, afterwards there was an accident or something. I got stuck in traffic for a really long time. So it just ended up taking way longer than it should have. But it's one of the reasons it's really handy to have these instant meal things on hand. So this is a curry one I've made. This is all my dehydrated food with chickpeas, quinoa, looks like cauliflower, and it's got a part of a curry broth cube in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and go. So one thing about the meals that I made in these jars, they were originally intended to be like fill the water in, almost like instant cup of noodles, but they this is way too full. It needs to be more like half full if that's gonna work. So I have to go dump this into a bowl and then pour boiling water over top, and then it'll sit for, I don't know, 10-ish minutes, and then it should be fine. So yeah, I will go ahead and go get that started, and then I'm probably going to come back and actually start making paint. Costco just took way too long, and I'm losing my light, and I'd rather use the natural light to do the fun thing than waste all of my natural light doing tasks. So I can do the freezer stuff tonight, or just a little later in the afternoon or whatever. But yeah, I'll get my lunch started, and that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so the water is on there. It's pretty fresh. And I just wanted to show what happens. So it is pretty fresh. It's not even close to rehydrated yet. So like I said, I'll let it sit for 10-ish, 15-ish minutes, and then we'll see what it looks like after that. Okay, it's been about 10-ish, 15-ish minutes. I don't know how long actually, I lost track. But yeah, here it is, totally reconstituted and gorgeous. There's a little bit of a liquid in the bottom, but like, I don't know, that's just, it's fantastic. It's delicious. I mean, really, people say dehydrated meals are not as good as freeze-dried. And I guess maybe, like, I've had a couple freeze-dried meals and they were good, but I don't know that the difference in taste and texture is worth the extra cost, especially of the equipment to do it. That being said, I still kind of want a freeze dryer. But here, look, let me show you. This is a chickpea. It was dehydrated. Or here, let me find one so you know that it wasn't like a plant. I mean, why would I plant that? But you can see, well, here, let me look at this. Like, this is fully rehydrated. It's gorgeous. I don't know if anybody would look at that and think that it ever was a dehydrated meal, except for maybe the veggies give it away. But see, it just squashes right through. That's a fully rehydrated bean. They're done. It is 100% delicious. And now, let's see. It actually might need a little salt or hot sauce. Like, the only flavoring in here was that tiny little broth cube. But we'll see. It's pretty good, but I do want hot sauce. But I always want hot sauce. So, but yeah, I will say, all that being said, the quinoa retains a tiny bit of chew, but I find that I like it. It's definitely not an uncooked chew. It's hard to describe, but it's also the kind of texture that makes me think that a dehydrated quinoa might make one of the most perfect ground beef substitutes ever, because it kind of has that same texture of just like a little bit more firm, but definitely not, inedible. So that's definitely an experiment that's kind of on a very long list of experiments in my head that I want to do, and I just need to find time to do them. Okay, so I did end up starting a little bit of paint making, but I decided to stop because it does take a while and I do still have a lot to do, and I can't focus too much on the relaxing stuff until I get my other stuff done. So I'll save that for another day when I have time that I can really sink into it. But basically now I'm working on clearing out the fridge freezer so that I can move some more stuff from the chest freezer in. So I have put every single bit of frozen corn that I had in the fridge freezer into the dehydrator now. So corn is one of the few things that I will dehydrate uncooked straight from the freezer. And I just, it rehydrates fine. It'll rehydrate pretty much perfectly boiled up in a soup. But if it's like being rehydrated just by a boiled water pour over, it still rehydrates, but there might just be like a tiny, and I mean like a tiny bit of chew. When I say tiny, it's kind of like with the quinoa where it's like, it's just sort of like, okay, that's there, but it's not like inedible or unpleasant to me. So, but I do want to let people know that that's not one of those ones where it's like, you can't even tell it was dehydrated. I find that a lot of the pasta, the chickpea, certain things, it's like you would never know that had been dehydrated the way that it rehydrates just with boiling water on top. Certain things are kind of always going to have just a little bit of a chew. Like potatoes is one of those. But yeah, they're by no means not edible. But yeah, I just want to say all that, just for your information as you might be planning your own dehydration meals or whatever. So next thing is to possibly move out some of the butternut squash. Unfortunately, so I was looking in this recipe book. So this is a really great recipe book, the Vegan Instant Pot Cookbook by Nisha Vora. I do really love it. She is Rainbow Plant Life on Instagram and here on YouTube, in case you haven't heard of her already. So her recipes are just absolutely stunningly delicious. I will say every now and then one of her recipes is like pretty fiddly. Like she is absolutely like a super fancy, awesome, amazing cook, and she doesn't have any kids and all that. So I think sometimes that informs the way some of her recipes might be, just as an FYI, but actually many of them are a lot less fiddly than I first kind of thought. Especially a lot of the ones in this book are pretty easy to put together. So I do recommend this book to add to your collection, if nothing else, for the cheese sauce in here. But there's actually several other recipes in here that are quite delicious. But back to my problem, which is the butternut squash. The cheese sauce recipe in here actually uses far less butternut squash than I thought it did. So it looks like even if I make a double batch, it's only going to go through one, like just one bag of the butternut squash. So I'm kind of reframing now, thinking maybe I'll make like a butternut squash soup, which I will blend up. I'm not sure. I have to kind of think on that. I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing next as far as the butternut squash goes. But there's also 4 1-pound rectangle blocks of tempeh, which I had gotten from Azure Standard. So I've never seen that size in stores, but that's the size I get from Azure Standard. And so those are in the freezer. I'm going to go ahead and it represents a pretty nice space in the freezer. I will move those up into the fridge to defrost. They'll be good there for a while, and I'll just make a point of using them in a lot of meals or meal preps, you know, some of those freezer meals I'm thinking of making. And I just can't remember if I've talked about it on this video or if it was a take that didn't make it. I'm also thinking about doing freezer meal prep. If I didn't talk about it, I'll talk about it some other time. But yes, now that that is done, I have enough space in the fruit area to start moving some stuff over from the big freezer and to hopefully create a big enough hole to put the stuff I'm getting from Azure Standard tomorrow. So I'm gonna go ahead and get back to it. Also, as a one last minute thing, that broth smells insane. Like when I got back from Costco, I walked in the house and I was like, I went, oh my gosh, like I had a moment where I went, wait a second, that smells like exactly like chicken stock. It's really freaky how a lot of times the smells that come out really smell like the other thing, and then I just have to remind myself, well, it's because chicken stock mostly smells like chicken stock because it's got all these flavors of other things. But like I tell you what, that potato, that bay leaves, the potato, the nutritional yeast, it just creates that extra like chickeny aroma. So anyway, it really does work very well. But that is going to get decanted probably in a little while. And yeah, I got to go back and start kind of figuring out on the butternut squash, but I think I have bigger fish to fry, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Like I said, it just uses way less. The cheese sauce uses way less of the butternut squash than I thought. So I might leave that actually. But I don't know. I think the kids would be happy with a giant double batch of this cheese sauce because they really love it. And then you pour it over pasta and it's like just like a giant goopy mess of mac and cheese, and yeah, it'll probably be pretty good. So anyway, I'll think about it. Okay, I gotta go do some stuff though. Okay, so I'm taking care of the blueberries. I have decided against the cheese sauce because it turns out that the recipe calls for 3/4 cup of nutritional yeast per batch, and this is all I have until next month's Azure Standard order, so I can't use that much nutritional yeast in one shot. So I'll figure out something else with the butternut squash, but for now I am transferring blueberries into other containers to get this box out of my big freezer. And so I just wanted to show really about these because there was another thing I had purchased at Costco, and it came in these little containers which are freezer safe. You look at them, they're freezer safe, dishwasher safe, you know, all kinds of stuff. And so they're relatively sturdy little containers. So I had to keep them. I washed them out, and so I have 4 of these, I believe. And so the other 2 are already full of blueberries. And so that's what I managed to get in here. But these will go into the big freezer again. And then now I'll start refilling the old blueberry bags from Costco with blueberries. But it looks like I'm still not going to get through all these blueberries. It's crazy. So like I said, I had purchased a 30-pound box from Azure Standard, and yeah, it's taking us absolutely forever to go through them, which is good. So we have blueberries for a long time, but yeah, it's just again logistics of figuring out where they go. But all right, I'll get back on this. Okay, here is the freezer, and I'm calling it done for now. So this is all basically the same. These bags have been refilled with the blueberries from the freezer. I moved over a bag of wild blueberries into here. So why do I have 2 different kinds of blueberries? I will talk about that in a second. This thing will start beeping at me. I do still have the butternut squash, like I said. I decided not to move it, but yeah, we were able to fit now this in here. It's just really handy for super fast lunches. I hope to be making, you know, my own stashes of freezer burgers very soon, which is another thing I haven't talked about, my freezer meals goals. But yeah, stuff has been shifted. This is the last of the kind of the fun 4th of July food. You know, we got kids. I try to make stuff fun for them. But yeah, so this is this freezer now. And like I said, I'm not doing the cheese sauce. So let's go ahead and go look at the other one. I know, gosh. And here's the other freezer. Pretty good amount of progress. I did not end up chipping ice off. I need to, but I just didn't yet. So actually also from the freezer in the house, I moved these banana breads in here. I'm finally testing whether or not those are good after they've been frozen. So they'll probably get pulled out pretty soon. But yeah, the blueberries have been moved. So these are the 2 that were already full of blueberries. And now here's the 2 I just filled. And then here's the rest of the bag from that box. So there's still quite a few left. I've got 2 more bags of corn in here. So that is, again, it's a thing we use a lot, and Costco sometimes won't have it like for months on end. So I just try to have, you know, plenty on hand. And so it's the cheapest way to buy organic corn that I have personally found. Canned organic corn is like ridiculously expensive. It's like $2 for a little can, and one of these bags is I think $5.99. So it's not even in the same universe. But yeah, I have 2 more of these, and if I absolutely have to make more room in here, then I can pull those out and stick those into the dehydrator, assuming the other ones are done tomorrow. I assume they will be. But also what I discovered, and let me close this again. Okay, so what I discovered was now I remember now that I saw it, but I had forgotten. I've got a ton of bags of just dried oats in the bottom of the freezer. So if I really do need to make more room in the freezer, I can go ahead and pull those and it'll be fine. So yeah, I think I'm set as far as the freezer project goes for now. And so I have the boys already started dinner. And that's exciting. They usually make dinner like once a week. And I do that to sort of teach them their cooking skills and make sure that they know what they're doing before they move out. So that's going, and I need to make sure that I'm available for questions. But for now, also, I will quickly answer the question of why the 2 different kinds of blueberries. And that is because the large blueberries are great for things like smoothies, or if I want to make a blueberry syrup, or if I do want to turn some of those blueberries into jam, it will be with the bigger blueberries. I was actually thinking maybe I should make some blueberry jam because there's just kind of a ridiculous amount of blueberries in there. But the smaller blueberries are really handy for things like muffins or quick breads, but especially things like pancakes or waffles to not be too huge or, you know, gum up the workings of the waffle maker or whatever. But also in a blueberry muffin, you know, you don't end up with that weird spot like if you accidentally get 2 or 3 blueberries next to each other where half the muffin is just like a weird mess of stuff. So yeah, it's just handier for certain applications, but also it's a great snack size. They're kind of the more the size of frozen peas than like those blueberries that are pretty large. And then the little pea ones are great for just eating as a snack, but also for putting into a fruit salad. Or one of my favorite things to do with them is to sprinkle them over the top of just a regular salad and then drizzle it with a little bit of coconut aminos. And then the blueberry, as it leaches its juices out, it mixes with the coconut aminos and you get this amazing kind of blueberry coconut amino dressing without any work whatsoever. And that is my favorite. So anyway, yeah, that's why we have 2 different kinds of blueberries, why I still buy the wild blueberries even though we have all those big ones. But yeah, the big ones, like I said, especially in smoothies, it saves us from going through the wild blueberries too quickly and saves the wild blueberries for where we need for them to be little. But yeah, that's it. So I'm going to consider that all finished. Hopefully any of that was helpful to anyone. But maybe also it could just be interesting to kind of see what is in a vegan family's freezer. So yeah, well, there you go. So anyway, as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Can't wait to see you guys again. Bye.